Welcome to the Real Chili Podcast.
And the Golden Eagles of Marquette University in Milwaukee are bound for the Final Four for only the third time ever.
5 seconds left. Marquette down by one, trying to avoid the upset. Blue the drive, the left hand. It's good. 1 second to play. Vander blew and put Marquette in front by one.
And I want to win every day as basketball players, as students, and I want to win every day, most importantly, as people.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Chili Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Mohan, joined by nobody, but that's okay, because I don't think anyone really wants to talk about what just happened out there. Frankly, it was an embarrassing performance, made worse by the fact that Marquette was up by 18. Final score ended up being 65-54. It was a frankly dominating performance from Marquette from the get-go. I mean, they came out of the first half with an 8-point lead, grew their lead to 18 points in the second half, and then from there on out, it was the Tyler Polley show. Who, you might ask? Who, we all might ask. But that didn't matter because, well, Dan Hurley probably could have thrown anyone else in there and popped those corner threes because they went to the same play over and over, and Wojo simply couldn't counter it. There's no excuse for anyone going off on you for 23 points in one half, which is what Tyler Polley accomplished tonight. There's really no excuse for any player to pull that off against you, and especially not a guy who, was averaging only, 4.8 points per game heading into this one, and drops a career-high 23 on us, all in the second half, I might add. Simply no counter, and unfortunately, Marquette falls, as I mentioned, 65-54 after the huge second half run by UConn, and they now sit at 2-4 in the Big East. I think that some people are saying the pitchforks are out for Wojo on this one. Totally understandable. Look, I mean, I'm not saying fire Wojo over this, but absolutely outcoached, outsmarted. It was obvious who the smarter guy is. It's unfortunate, it sucks to get outcoached. There was also, of course, I like to say that, the players are really who are in charge of the performance. And frankly, the guys, I don't think they gave up. They were close, and at the end, some balls bounced the wrong way. It's not like it was an 11-point loss. It was a pretty tight matchup there at the end still. However, the issue was, first of all, that they couldn't stop Tyler Polley, and no one stepped up to do that. But second of all, the turnovers resurfaced. And I can't remember exactly what minute of the game it was in the second half, but they popped up the graphic on the screen, and it said turnovers. I think it was UConn 10 and Marquette 6. And I was like, wow, we're like somewhere in the middle of the second half, and we only have 6 turnovers. No wonder we're winning. This is a professional-looking offensive performance thus far. balanced attack. Things were going well, and then the turnovers percolated, and let's see who the culprits were here in this game. Well, frankly, actually, we only ended up with 9 turnovers. I stand corrected. Turnovers were not the issue. I was looking here at fouls. But regardless, the team collapsed down the stretch, and they were just unable to make any plays when it counted most. Nothing to stem the tide, nothing to stop UConn from completely pouring it on. And look, this team, I don't know that it has enough oomph to constantly be, pushing and plugging away with winning basketball for 40 minutes. There's too many little things that add up to a team that's going to struggle to get a lot of wins in the Big East. And look, there's a lot of growing still to do for these young guys. I'm looking forward to them growing. It was a great performance from Dawson Garcia, double-double, 20 points, 11 rebounds. But he wasn't really able to come through in the clutch either and be the savior for this team. It's a little bit of turnovers. It's a little bit of shooting. In this game, it was shooting again. Only ended up shooting 39% from the field, which offense continues to be an on and off issue for this squad. Three-quarters of the way, 2/3 of the way through this game, we would have said, hey, this was a impressive turnaround defensively. Things got a little bit better. We were forcing them into tough shots, and frankly, their best player, Book Knight, we were locking him down even before Kobe fell on his wrist and he was playing injured for most of the second half. Defense looked solid, and then I guess Dan Hurley finally just found that play that was working for him, springing our pal Polley open in the corner for those 3-pointers, of which he hit 5 of 8 3-pointers on us, and there was no counter. And I don't know. There certainly were things that we could have done defensively to slow that down. I remember there was one play too where he was anticipating that defensive counter in transition, and he passed it inside to someone else for an easy bucket. So just not a complete effort, and you can't expect to come out of the Big East with a winning record unless you have that consistent effort for 40 minutes, game in and game out. And I don't know. I don't know if this team totally has it in them for that type. It's not an effort thing. It's a lot of things. It's not an effort thing. Talent's there. The guys hustle. They're on the floor. It's not that they're not diving after loose balls. The rebounding has been fairly solid. Of course, Connecticut, pretty big team. They made rebounding a challenge for us, but in the end, you got to be able to put it all together somehow. And the team just simply was not able to do that, simply just collapsing in the second half. Let's see. I'm checking out the Ken Palm is finally up here, so I'm pulling up the rebounding numbers. Despite Dawson Garcia having 6 offensive rebounds, which was outstanding, Connecticut absolutely pummeled us on the glass. They rebounded 44% of their own misses, 15 offensive rebounds, and 75% of Marquette's misses for 27 defensive rebounds. And Marquette only grabbing 25% of offensive rebounds and 56% of defensive rebounds. So they manhandled us on the glass, and I want to go back to something that I mentioned in the podcast. I can't remember if it was after the big win when Kobe played well, and they were interviewing him and asking Wojo about the identity of this team, that being, in Wojo's words, defense and rebounding. Well, if that is truly what this team needs to hang its hat on to get wins, I'm going to need to see more out of them. It's just we're not capable of winning with rebounding as our calling card if you're going to get absolutely destroyed by Connecticut on the glass, and then give up 23 points to basically a nobody. So those things, I guess, Wojo, you got to give him credit for being right that the offense would not be one of the hallmarks of this team. Struggles continue. Shooting is what it is. It's not as easy to control, I guess, as turnovers. Jamal Cain had an open look in the corner, I think, when we were down 60-54 late, and he was unable to hit it this time after he made the big shot against Georgetown. So, look, you got to hit your shots in order to win. You can't put up 54 points and expect to win a lot of games in the Big East. So, I don't know. I'm eager to see what happens next. We have a long layoff since Villanova is the game for Friday scheduled with Villanova is postponed because they are sickly, and Philadelphia, although a cool place, is a filthy place, and we must suffer the consequences of not getting to watch Marquette get pummeled again this week, which some of us may enjoy. Let's see. I'm taking a peek at the chat now. Now, guys, I'm in the chat. Look. What did I do? How many minutes did I give you? I gave you a good 11 minutes of banter, solo banter. I'm heading to the chat. What do you guys got? Oh, pitchforks, another lawsuit. I think, and this wasn't in the chat, but it's painful to lose to another Seton Hall Pirate. It's like losing to Seton Hall and Connecticut. It's brutal. They are who we thought they were. Political activists. Well, I think that we do need to take a moment to acknowledge that. I think it was a powerful statement by the team to come out in the black jerseys today. Of course, that's going to be lost in the shuffle of everything else that's going on. Important, for this team. I think that's another part of this team's identity that they've established since the summertime is that they do care about social issues and they're willing to put that on their back and wear that with pride. Whether you are one of the fans out there who disagrees or agrees with that, that's up to you to decide, I suppose, whether you're a person with a soul or not. However, so shout out to the guys for their activism. I appreciate that. But the real story here is that Wojo was outcoached. And look, my patience is wearing thin. I think I have been probably the most staunch Wojo supporter of many. There are a few in the community out there who are still on the Wojo bandwagon, one might say. But I am absolutely teetering because things like this, losing an 18-point lead. Yeah, we came back from 15 to end up beating Georgetown. Same thing happens to us here. It's tough. Dan Hurley ran circles around us literally, and it's something that it was like I wanted to jump through the screen and get out there and play defense. It was frustrating to watch the Groundhog Day defense out there. All right, let's see. Unbelievably awful coaching. Jay wants to know what it will take for the pitchforks for me to be. I think, look, it's going to take a bad loss against a bad team for me. I said in the text chats last time that I was maybe going to say fire Wojo if we lost by double digits at Georgetown, which we did not do. Wojo saved his hide there. UConn, not a bad team either. We absolutely should have won that game. We're the more talented team, in my opinion. This was purely coaching. However, the other team having a better coach than you isn't necessarily enough reason to fire a coach in and of itself. It's nothing we can control. We could have hired Dan Hurley, I suppose, and we did not. That's on the administration, I suppose. But what are you going to do? You can't just make a trade there. So for me to really switch to fire Wojo, it would take, a humbling loss to DePaul, Georgetown, one of these teams that is clearly a poor team. Unfortunately, in the Big East, we're not going to play a bunch of, sub 200 teams where we can really get exposed. I think if we were playing in the MAC or something like that, there would be losses to that caliber of teams, but luckily we slid into the Big East, so no bad losses the rest of the way, which is a bit of an insurance policy for my take, I suppose. But I'm definitely teetering. I think that there's just you can't give up that type of performance without being able to stop this guy, Tyler Polley. Thorn in our side, a player that we did not even know to scout for. Apparently, Wojo did not consider it either. And then in the broadcast, the announcers mentioned that he was having some good practice, and Dan Hurley decided to ride the hot hand, and the kid took over. You got to give him credit in the absence of book night. Artie Sheboygan, Pete, does the narrative change significantly if MU loses against Wisconsin? I think for the resume, there's obviously a lot less to hang your hat on, but there's still no real horrible losses on the resume, and the narrative would still be, hey, we were right there with a top 10 team. I don't think it changes much. There's still a lot of basketball to play, so we're going to sit down and we're going to watch that. We're going to talk about it. We're going to deal with the growing pains of this roster and the toleration of the Wojo era. It is what it is. We got to live with it. They're not firing him in the middle of the year, I don't believe. We've all discussed the Anonymous Eagle article about why he's here to stay. Let's see. Add Polley to the long line of career ballers versus MUBB. John Felix, Kunkel got us. It's true. Guys break out. Guys have big games. It happens. There's always going to be those outliers. You just hope that you have the coaching to counter that. UConn upped the pressure and MU couldn't handle it. Folded like a Bubbles suit. I don't think Bubbles has ever folded a suit. They're only balled up and wrinkled in his bag. But you're right. UConn defensive intensity was much higher, and Marquette just wasn't as crisp in the second half. There was an impressive amount of activity and quickness, quick passing and everything from Marquette in the first half, and a little more sluggish. I need more from DJ Carton personally. But we should have been, I think, feeding the ball into Dawson more in the post late, trying to draw fouls, at least slow the momentum that UConn had rolling and feed a guy who had some success. But they were also blocking some shots, 3 blocks against us. It was tough to handle. Tough defense from UConn and tough coaching from Dan Hurley. Team didn't look aggressive. They did for part of the game, and then they stopped. Artie's got me down on paper saying if we lose to DePaul, I'm busting out the pitchforks. It doesn't count if we have one of those stupid little 1 or 3 point losses where the refs get us. But if we get embarrassed by DePaul, absolutely. If next time we see Georgetown we get embarrassed, then for sure that team sucks too. Bykowski says repeatedly feeding Theo in the post with no other offense was crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've harped on that all season. I think that is something that, is to taste. You dash a little hot sauce in there, and yeah, he did have he had a few good hook shots, but then he had that air ball, and that was part of the descent into no offense land for this team. Man, this team is going to be the death of us, and that's all right. If I die because of Marquette basketball, I think that there's probably worse ways to die. I'm having fun doing it. I like the witnessing other fans torture. It's a sadistic Lions fan thing, I think, where I just deal with all of the Detroit losses. I internalize it, and then I watch my Packers fans, brethren who are also Marquette fans, and see their glee at the Packers having such success for so long. And when Marquette loses and they're confounded by what a loss means, that's something I've always marveled at with Packers fans, is whenever the Packers lose, it's confounding to them. They don't, what is a loss? And it's fun for me, at least, to see Marquette lose and watch those Packers fans who aren't really sure how to process losing it all, to deal with that with Marquette. So, look, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? This team wins, losses. We're gonna do it all. I'm here for the full ride. I hope you guys are too. I appreciate at least there being 10 streaming. That's amazing. You guys are troopers, and I love you so much. And I hate all my podcast mates for being busy, hardworking family men who are devoted to everyone around them and hang me out to dry. But love you guys all. Artie Sheboygan with the good news that Ken Palm just dropped us 6 more spots. We are trending down into Hades. It's beautiful. All right. There's a lot going on in the world. I think everyone needs to go catch up on the news. Best blessings to Dr. Dre. Hope he feels better. Some large Senate races going on, and just a whole lot of crazy stuff that probably is more important than Marquette second half collapse and Wojo mediocrity. But it's up for you to decide. You weight your preferences. You go ahead and you do that. You choose your destiny, choose your own adventure. I'm going to log off. I appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat, giving me someone to talk to, and hope you guys have a comfortable mattress that you can get some sleep on. With that said, that'll wrap up this episode of the Real Chili Podcast, where Marquette, once again, falls from 18 up to lose to UConn 65-54 and fall to 2-4 in Big East play, 6-6 overall. This has been the Real Chili Podcast. I've been your host, Pete Mohan. I will see you all again whenever that next game is. Adios.